Okay, do you want me to do? Hello? Good evening. Is everyone able to hear now?
I can hear through the phone. Thank you.
Okay. This is Yvonne Zanone, Title I Manager. I'm testing the line to make sure everyone is able to hear.
Yes, I can hear. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, so we'll need to...
Isn't going to make too much heat?
Can we unplug that?
It's going to make too much heat. And I have to hear my voice, which I feel.
I have to put it back here.
You put it up there like that.
Well, they need to...
No, they didn't get that. I'm not talking. I'll project it up for the future. Okay, we were stalling. I just wanted to make sure that we were remotely advancing to the year. I think we and some methods, some people please take it. Make sure you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I should.
Come back.
So we're the Homework Helpers organization. I'm Sahibi.
I'm Rashad. I'm Jamal.
And I'm Ishan. So here's a little bit about us and how we all started. So we implemented the cross-age peer tutoring program between a middle school and an elementary school to provide academic enrichment for the elementary school students, a positive role modeling experience, and a sense of community between the middle school and elementary school students. We are former middle school tutors, and we're now the founders of the Homework Helpers organization. And our goal is to implement Homework Helpers throughout all Title I schools in Fairfax County Public Schools. So right now, we're currently volunteering for Fairfax County as a part of the Study Buddy program with the Department of Volunteer Services. So every week, we go back to our roots and volunteer and tutor students through the Study Buddy program.
Here's just a brief overview of how we divide our tasks. Right here are tutors. They would spend an hour and a half per session tutoring the tutees from the elementary school. And the tutees themselves would get an hour of tutoring from the students. We'd also have parent volunteers spending around an hour and a half per session, helping to oversee just making sure everything's running smoothly. And then ourselves, the Homework Helpers organization, we run everything behind the scenes, such as creating and storing all of the education resource materials, planning and coordinating for the venues, and things of that nature. Over here we have just overall like how we distribute everything. As I said before, we have this resource, Google Drive, which has loads of educational resources such as SOL prep, math, and reading help for grades 3 through 6. So basically got all of the students covered. We also, in terms of what the elementary schools can bring to the table, they provide the venue, usually like a cafeteria or a library at the school that we would go in and have tutoring sessions at, as well as having the tutees come and join the program. Usually that counselor or a teacher would recommend that they would benefit from this extra help. And in terms of help from adult volunteers, big help is in terms of transportation. So in one of the models that we'll explain in a second, we have our the after school model and a SAC model where we transport middle school tutors to the elementary schools to help with the elementary schoolers. Furthermore, we also need a little bit of help from adult volunteers in terms of supervision on site, as I said, and also a little bit of staff support to get the program into the door of the elementary schools, and also helping to recommend students that would benefit from this program.
Going along with what Kamal said, one of the things that separates us from traditional tutoring services is our flexibility. We try to adjust our models towards each middle school, elementary school care that we work with. So on your screen, you can see 3 different models that we do right now. The evening model is usually intended towards middle schools and elementary schools that can transport students to a certain venue after school hours. And usually the way this works is that the middle school and elementary school students are transported usually around 6:30 to 7 to some pre-designated place, and the tutoring goes on for hours on 1 or 2 weekdays per week. For the teacher helper model, which is used when we don't have the transportation available, middle schoolers are transported to elementary school for the last period of the day, so they assist teachers then. And this usually requires also that the middle schoolers end about an hour and a half earlier than the elementary schools, which is not possible in all cases, because our time is the time for transportation, and so that there is a substantial amount of time that the middle schoolers can actually help at the elementary school. Finally, as Kamal mentioned before, the SAC model is a way derived from the teacher helper model, where instead of helping out in the last period of the day, the middle schoolers help out in the SAC program at the elementary school.
So going off on what makes us different, we're an organic system. So the tutees have the potential to give back to their community as well, because once they grow older and go to middle school, they can also become the tutors that once helped them. And we learned that the proximity of ages between the tutor and tutee creates for a really efficient learning style, because being able to learn from a peer from a middle school that learned the material just a few years ago helps your tutees understand the material a lot better than some of the parents who learned the material a while back. And in that sense, like math is always, to go off of that, like math is always changing, and the terminology is too, and some of the kids have trouble with that. So it's nice to have a person that knows it as well as you do. So we, like Kamal mentioned, we have the worksheets and resources to give to the TDs and the tutors, so we take care of that. And logistics. We train the tutors beforehand and tell them the do's and the don'ts of what not to do during tutoring. And we meet with the middle schools and the elementary schools, and we find a common ground that we can have the tutoring at, and like what model works best with them. And we meet with after-school specialists, counselors, and anyone that can help us establish the program.
These are just the current programs that we have going on at the moment. Rocky Run Middle School is currently catering to Lee's Corner Elementary, Brookfield Elementary, Dugar East Elementary, and Public Tree Elementary. And over there we have implemented the TPAC model as well as the teacher helper model. And at Herndon Middle School we have the after school model, which is where, as Michelle said, after school middle school tutors would go to Herndon Elementary and help out the elementary schools there. And right now we're in progress of setting up another after-school model connecting middle school and Now, to gauge the effectiveness of our program, we offered a survey to tutors who have been involved with the program in the past, and as you can see on the graph, it was also overwhelmingly positive. Almost all the tutors rated that the program has increased their self-confidence and their appreciation for teaching, in addition to areas such as their self-esteem, all of which are important for middle schoolers transitioning to high school. We also offered a survey to the teachers as well. We haven't gotten as many responses yet, so we don't have enough data to be conclusive, but from what we have so far, the results are also extremely positive. Teachers whose students had enrolled in the program.
So we weren't able to get a quantitative data of the TPAC growth because we needed a baseline or like a test to take. But we asked the teachers to give some testimonials about the growth they've seen in their students. So we just want to read a few of the testimonials from Herndon Elementary school teachers. So Courtney says, "It's been absolutely amazing and made such a positive impact on my students. Students who have trouble focusing and working independently were able to work with their buddy and get their assignments finished on time, when they usually do not. The helpers also provide a positive mentor experience that my students were able to look up to and work harder than before. My students really enjoyed having them come every Thursday and would check in with me to make sure they were coming. Thank you so much for the support in my classrooms. They really made a difference." So Cindy Madden, a 4th grade math, said, "They typically manage a small group of students and reteach skills that the students are working on for review. By my having that and knowing I can depend on them, it allows me to focus on students who may be struggling with math concepts."
From different perspectives, from typically this elementary school, speaking of the tutors, reviewed our math practice page on Monday and took the time to write a note about each of the students and how they did during their time together. I was wondering if there was a way that she could get the kudos or recognition for being so attentive to the students in their learning. From a Herndon Elementary School teacher, not only did they help the kids out with their work, the kids and the worksheets, but while the kids were being taught lessons, they drew up the great worksheets and put them into their take-over cups. We also have many testimonials from the parents of tutees from the program. Both of these parents have students in the evening program at our school. Gary Jackson said, "Anthony loves learning. His homework is math. It's the techniques and tricks from these other kids that learned it just a few years ago." With parents who find that along the curriculum that their students are learning, they don't have the resources to teach it as well. They also find that it's a lot easier to have people who learned it just a few years ago to get it instead. Miko Tanaka, another parent who had a child in the evening program, said, "I'm originally from Japan, but my kids are American. It is a big help for me because the helpers work with them the exact way we see this a lot in the home program. A lot of parents find that the program helps their kids a lot because our group has a lot of people of various ethnicities who are able to sort of act as this bridge between the English-oriented environment at school and the household that many of these students come from."
So this is a chart or graph of our growth from 2013 to 2019. Although we have seen growth over the years, it hasn't been as steady and increased as much as we'd like. And to contribute that are many factors such as a lack of transportation and resources in some of the schools that we're working with. There's a less PTA that's less developed, so we can't have like adult volunteers always for the evening program or just driving the students to the schools is what we've had trouble with. So if we could get help with that, we could see the growth we'd like.
Lastly, just to end off, the things that we really do need, the help that we really appreciate. First of all, as I said, is the transportation of the middle school students. They cater to the elementary schoolers directly at their school for the teacher helper model or the TPAC model. We'd also appreciate some adult supervision for the tutoring sessions. This is here right now at Herndon Elementary and Middle School, and also in the future at Franklin Middle School, just to, as I said, oversee everything, make sure everything's running smoothly. It'd also be great to have an encouragement from middle schools to implement the homework helper service, because we have in the past struggled, and we are struggling a little bit with Franklin in terms of incorporating the program with the middle school. We do see that the elementary schools are very eager to have middle school tutors come and help out the students, but there are always just some logistical problems and a little bit of trouble getting those feet through the door in terms of fully implementing the program. In terms of everything else, the homework helpers organization pretty much does it all in terms of coordinating the times and locations of the venues, as you said, the resources, and everything else of that nature.
Thank you for your time. We will now open the floor to questions.
So you said you're having a hard time getting middle school students to sign up for the program or to involve. Do you think that incentives for them?
So we haven't had a problem really with getting volunteers to sign up, because we do talk to the after-school specialists and we ask them to advertise it through their National Junior Honor Society for service hours, and that's been working out well. We just have trouble transporting the tutors and having volunteers to take care of that, because we do need an adult and we are high school students, so it's not feasible for us to be at the program wherever it is at each school.
And also just to add on to that, specifically at Franklin, we have had some trouble just back and forth with email. And so you have met in person. It seems like things have been a little bit slow to get our feet rolling. And at the end of the day, in terms of Franklin, we started this at the beginning of the year. We've had a couple meetings, a couple emails, but it seems like nothing has really gone forward. So it would be helpful to have, especially in the specific schools, to have some sort of push to get the program running. Because I really think that the kids themselves, there already is an incentive. First place from the Rocky Run that we've seen is the National Junior Honor Society. Because they require service hours, I feel that this is a great way for those students to fulfill their service. And also as well, just great for the elementary school.
What subjects do you help with? Just math?
Yeah, we help with math, reading, and writing, and SOL prep. So we have the database with all of the worksheets that they need, and so mostly English and math. And if they have history or science, the tutor feels like they can help them with that, they're more than willing to.
Do you guys have any training or certification thing that you need to find out? You actually have a program showing them how to go about doing that?
So we have tutor training sessions. It's a 2-day workshop, and we just tell them what to do, what not to do, and we give them case scenarios of if they get into a troubled situation, how they would deal with that. Do they tell a parent or do they try to deal with it on their own? And so we go through that for a few days, and if they have questions, they ask us, and we help them in any way we can.
Because I know a lot of this is parents. As a parent myself, if I want somebody to bring my child, I want to make sure they're certified or something. So maybe getting some sort of official certification or something might actually boost your ability to get more people involved with work.
Speaking of that, I think one thing that we could, I just thought of it on the spot, but we have seen in the moment or in the past, a lot of these kids are from the National Junior Honor Society. So one way to just maybe control the people or the students that would be tutored is to have them be directly funneled from the National Junior Honor Society to make sure that we have very capable students.
I guess I wonder if you've ever considered hosting a refresher session for the parents, because
you talk, kind of to address, you brought up this point between, like, the divide between immigrant children and their parents. And then having learned something a long time ago and then having students that have it, I think that as an immigrant, I know that there exists this divide that just continues to grow as you get older and older. Like my mom tells me my reading, she's so proud that knows that. But only to a certain point, right? And then I used to like keep a little written dictionary. And then my findings of my book, like the inside cover, and that's how I felt it. But I think, especially the great thing is that you seem like you're a diverse group that is a really neat opportunity for you to help bridge that divide that it continues to grow. But yeah.
Will you talk to the parents explicitly and sort of bring that in for a session?
Yeah. Or like a refresher, or this is what it's about, or just like terminology, or maybe this is something. I just think that you all seem unique to me, and it might be something to consider with the teachers, or to do something as everyone, helping everyone just understand it.
I don't know about feasibility, but just trying to help you come up with creative ways to get your program out. What about doing it on the weekends at a library, a local library? That way, not only the parents and their children for to teach, but also the get right from the parents or whatnot. I'm just trying to put that out there as a possibility.
So we have considered that, but I think that one of the reasons that we haven't taken action on that is because of the fact that a lot of these families, a lot of the parents are working multiple jobs. They really don't have much time free on the weekends, so we've seen that it is kind of hard to set up, especially on the weekends. And we have in the past, in the program that we run with the Department of Family, or on the county level, it is also pretty tough to schedule in the library. So combining those complications as well as the fact that not all the parents are always going to be available, that we have considered that, but I think that the way we have it, especially after school, the teacher helper and the staff model is really the best way that we can get the two teams and the tutors together at the same time.
Also, tutors tend to have commitments sometimes on the weekends just because a lot of extracurricular activities conflict for that time. So it's not always easy to get that time. I think yes. Sorry, you can go.
You're talking about middle school, but I don't think you guys are middle schoolers. What is the connection with high school and this program?
So we were the tutors in middle schools, and then we asked that once the middle schoolers graduated in high school, they would come help us and try to spread the program throughout.
There are some high schoolers in the program also.
Yeah, we don't do the tutoring through homework helpers, but we do try to implement the program and work with schools to get the program started. Because we learned that like having a middle school to elementary school like relationship are closer in age, and it just helps the whole thing run smoothly.
So when you do this after school, how many tutors and how many students to be in the program, and how does the transportation work? Is that parents who are picking up some of the students and bringing them over? Is that I'm just curious about kind of where them with.
So at Rocky Run, we do the staff model, and I know that we have one of the teachers drive like a few of the tutors. I think it's between 10 tutors, and they go to Brookfield or any of the elementary schools that do the SAC model, and they go into the SAC program and they just tutor the students that need help, and the teachers will recommend the students as well. Yeah. And then with Herndon Middle School and Herndon Elementary School, we had the French teacher. She drove the tutors to the elementary school during the school day. And we had a parent volunteer help as well with that.
So for the SAC model, is it just enrolled SAC students?
Yeah, for the SAC model, it is just the enrolled SAC students.
Also,
Do you ever do both, like some SAC students and some students? Like, like I'm just imagining in our school,
first hour after school that's how both faculty. I mean, I think we get both groups. I think we get some faculty and some students who aren't in fact. We kind of pull the students who are in fact out, and anyone can participate, and then you go back to class.
Yeah, we were talking to Hutchinson Elementary School, and I remember they said they had like a homework club after school. So if the school has like a club or a place where the tutors could go, we're more than willing to send them. But like we just work with the school as what works best for them. Yeah. So we're flexible in that term, like to find a program that works for them.
What high school are you guys with?
I'm from Fairfax High School. I'm a senior currently.
I'm a senior at Thomas Jefferson.
I'm a junior at Chase.
And I'm
And also for the evening model, just to answer your earlier question, usually faculty parents do have to provide the transportation. Like the tutors will come to the elementary school, and then after their parents will pick them up. Some students choose to carpool, but usually we leave that up to the individual students.
How do you guys organize yourselves? Do you all come to the school, teacher advisor or something?
We usually meet outside of school, so we usually meet. We try to meet on a weekly basis, just coordinating everything at one of our houses.
How many of you are involved in school?
So it's 13 of us from various high schools across like Fairfax County. So we meet like every Sunday morning, and we give a heads up like where we are, what we want to do in the future, what our next plan is, and try to figure out what we do. Yeah.
So what elementary schools, was it just the list that you had up there, just those two, or?
Yeah, those are the ones that we were in.
Okay. How many tutors do you have, approximately?
So it's just
How large is the program?
So I think it also varies by school. That doesn't exactly show that.
Oh, okay.
But most Rocky Run, I think, still has the majority of the tutors because it feeds so many elementary schools.
Okay.
But then the other programs are also going fast, and we look to increase the size of these programs as well. I don't know. I think it's around 100. 35 tutors.
35 tutors.
Yeah, usually in the sessions, we partner with one tutor with usually two.
So this is the number of students.
Oh, yes.
You have about 35 tutors. Okay.
So 13 coordinators in the home of number. You think that, well, two-part question. First, how do you determine who the coordinators are, and you think that expanding that number can be targeted towards schools on particular periods that they have connections to other things
So this is the first part. Usually we try to choose people who went through the program when they were in middle school. Usually right after, we usually take in sophomores, so usually freshman year we sort of give people time to adjust to high school. And then starting in sophomore year, we contact those kids again and ask, hey, are you interested in doing this? And the program, we've gotten 2 generations of public helpers like this. Since we started the Harness program and the Harness program, the Franklin program later, we're still not something to the coordinators yet. But once they do, I expect that we'll expand outside the Rocky Run pyramid.
And as you said, so awesome to expand the program further. Once we get implemented into we'll further away from just our there, we're going to be able to get tutors from those middle schools who can't come and join like management program.
So going off our transportation issue.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys. I think this is an amazing program. I'm going to your school board. You said you had trouble with planting middle school, so I'd be happy to talk to you guys to try to figure out exactly what the problem is. And I just wanted to thank you for putting yourselves out there and offering to help because, you know, every individual does take a village. So
Thank you. I just wanted to go off of our transportation issue. It's like we were thinking if having adult volunteers isn't feasible to drive the students, if we could have a school bus come pick up the middle school students to drive to the elementary school students, that would make the program a lot easier and more like beneficial and efficient, because we know there's a lot of liability issues with like volunteers. So if we could have a school bus and have like one teacher volunteer, that would make it a lot easier. So that's what we're looking for also.
Because the middle school gets out early right now, would that school bus driver sometimes drive to some of those elementary schools anyway? Or not?
Oh yeah.
It's just a question that you might want to think about. If some of the same drivers drive to Brookfield, they could take some of those tutors to Brookfield while they're going to be picked up at Brookfield.
Yeah.
The drivers might be the same idea.
Or if they drop if they want to get that geographical area, just drop them to both of them at the elementary school. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have some things to distribute. Give me a help. Thank you. Good woman. Okay, I'm Dorothy Keenan, and I am from Grand Involve. And I'm going to be speaking about our Grand Involve program today. Let's see if I can, I'm not going to be as good at the kids at this. So, let's see, that wasn't the one. The one on the right, there we go. Okay. Grand Involve goals. The Grand Involve program brings older adults into Fairfax County Elementary Schools where children have the highest financial needs and where many of the students do not speak English at home. So I'm not telling you what our Title I schools look like. This is our what I give to people who don't know what a Title I school is. So as we know, our Title I schools have the highest diversity, cultures and languages. In Fairfax County, about 30% of our population don't speak English at home, and these children often face a disadvantage at school. Our volunteers help the teachers by doing things like we play a game, or we do an exercise with children who just haven't caught on to the lesson. So as you know, there's many different ways of learning, and we'll do something that's more sensory, or something that's instead of voice, that is more visual. So there are different ways of learning, and we actually do fun things with the children to help them to learn. So frequently they'll pick up the lesson message. And when I know this myself, I have been a tutor. When a child finally grasps something that the teachers are trying to teach them, for days, you can see it on their face. Both on their face when they finally grasp it. And the really nice thing is I work very frequently with a small group with maybe 4 or 5 children. The other children see it, and they all get excited. So it's very rewarding for the children who are in that small group. Actually, I find the child gets that. So one of the most important benefits of our program is that children and adults are interested in more education. In our school. Okay, so here's our history. In year one, we had a pilot program at Crestwood Elementary. And at Crestwood that year, we started out, I don't know, maybe 12 volunteers, something like that. At Crestwood now, and we are in year number 5, they have 43 volunteers, and they are turning us away. Okay, so they are actually sending the Grand Involve volunteers from Crestwood to another school. They said we just have enough teachers that want this program. We're just
overrun. So Crestwood has been a wonderful program for us. So we added some more schools in year number 2, and in year number 3 we added 6 schools, and those schools were around the outskirts of the county, so that wherever people lived in Fairfax County, they'd be able to volunteer at a school within 30 minutes of their house. So then in year number 4, we went up to 16 schools, and we did that because we had the support of our board of supervisors and the school board. They have been wonderful supportive of marketing supervisors program. So Supervisor Stork in Mount Vernon said, I want grant involved in all my schools. So that's how we ended up with 16. We added 10 that year. We were in a couple, but we added 10 more volunteers. We were at 16. This year we're adding 7. And you have the list of the schools that we're in. That's the 16. And if you turn it over, you'll see the 7 that we're adding this year. Because this year we're working with Supervisor McFay, okay, in the Lee District. And we just started in January looking for our liaison, our lead volunteer at these schools. And I'm really happy to say that we've already added 2 schools this year. Just last month and this month we're adding 2. So we've added Rose Hill and Cameron. So both of those schools came right on board as soon as they were able to. So we currently have 158 volunteers, and I have a couple of people in the works. And of those, there's about 21 leadership volunteers that help us by forming teams that design the future of the program. And those 158 volunteers are at the 18 schools right now. So we just this year got our 501c3, and we just had our second meeting of our board of directors. So we're becoming much more organized. Our intention is to be in all the Title I schools in 10 years. So by 2024, we hope we will be able to be in all the Title I schools. And of course, they keep on adding Title I schools on us. We started out with 48, now we're over 50. So, but we still say we will be there. And the reason that we had those 2 schools come on board so soon is they were able to get us a partner. So this is the way we have an actual plan. And okay, my next slide is that's the county, and right now we're in all these schools down here. So our future action team has made the plan how we're going to expand across the county, and we're going from here to Lee District to Mason District, and then we're heading up north, and then we're going here, and that's how we're going to do it in the 10 years. But we will find a lead volunteer for a school. In order for a school to come on board, they have to have a lead volunteer at that school who coordinates the program at that school. We can find people, but if the school finds somebody, they will get right on board. So if there's a school that's over here, wants to be in grant involved, they can find us a volunteer, we'll bring them on tomorrow. So that is one way for a school to get on board really quickly. So any school that acquires its own action team volunteer, that's we call them a school action team volunteer. We call them our SATs, and they meet monthly, and they receive training. So they meet monthly. They talk about best practices, what's working at their school, what's not working. Back to the map. Okay, so here's the Grant Involved experience. There's 2 levels of volunteering with Grant Involved: our school classroom volunteers and our action team volunteers. So the classroom volunteers work directly with the teachers and their children. We work during the day in class. Our volunteers are mentors, readers, math helpers, classroom assistants, And although traditional time slots are available, like we'll ask somebody to come in every Thursday at 1 o'clock, it's really up to the volunteer when they come in. So there are structured time schedules. However, we tell all the schools that they must be flexible. Most of our volunteers are new retirees, boomers. We travel. I myself travel. I'm probably gone 2.5 months out of the year, you know, and most of our volunteers do that. But when they become, accustomed to being in the class, the kids learn that the volunteer is going to be gone for a couple of weeks. So, and I think that's one of the reasons that we are so successful getting volunteers is that we don't require that they be there every week. So although we prefer that, and most of our volunteers, we tell them they must work an hour a week, I'd say most of our volunteers work 2, 3, even 5 hours a week. Once they get there, they like to stay. So Grand Involve also has opportunities for people who would like to use their career knowledge and experience on an action team. So the action teams design and determine the future of Grand Involve. So if you're on an action team, you'll work with school staff and community partners to design a specific Grand Involve plan for each individual school. Okay, and then we work together with the school to make sure that that plan is delivered and successful. So the future planning team, which is another team we have, works together to design and promote the plan for the expansion into all the schools. So these are the kinds of things our classroom volunteers do. Reading, math, material preparation, mentoring, kindergarten readiness, special projects, and I'll just give you, for reading volunteers, they might listen to a student reading. They might read to the student. They might read together with the student. So I will just tell you an example. When I have done reading, and it's generally with one child, and they'll bring their reading books over, and many times when a child does not have English as their primary language, they stumble over words that you'd be surprised they don't know. For example, I had a child, the story was about going through the gate onto a path in the woods. The child didn't know what a gate was. He'd never experienced a gate. He lived in an apartment. So he didn't know gate. He didn't know path. He didn't know the word path. So he kept on stumbling over these 2 words until we explained what the words were. So when you're reading with children, we're doing a lot of explaining what the words are. So the math volunteer might be doing math skills games, and either with an individual or with a small group. And the mentoring teacher, so sometimes we have people who are tutoring in the classroom, and then they'll spend a half an hour mentoring the student at lunch, and then they'll go back to the classroom. So they might do a combination of projects or volunteering. So we, the action team members, are the names of the that's what we call our skill level volunteers. We currently have 21 of them who constitute the leadership, and they're in a couple of different teams. We have HR specialists, school officials, former school officials, former government administrators, former financial directors, attorneys, some school board members, several business developers. So we have people who have many, many skills, and we try to use their skills to our advantage in the team. Okay, using school level skill level volunteers. The school action teams work with each school. So this is one school has a school action team person that's assigned to them. They will work with the staff to find out what the school is needing right then and what their goals are. For example, at Mount Vernon Woods, which is one of the schools that we're working with, the principal wanted the after-school program. So we're helping him design and find people who will do after-school programs. So those are the kinds of things we do. At Crestwood, they wanted more families involved in their nighttime programs. So we helped to really build up those nighttime programs. And we found we had a library donate 850 books, and we gave out those books at the nighttime program. And the children, some of them for the first time having their own book that they owned, went home from the nighttime programs with a book, and they've enticed the families to come to all those nighttime programs. So they are now seeing additional families involved. So our regional action teams work specifically in the region. So we have a regional action team right this year working with Lee District, and they are working with marketing and advertising and really trying to get people to start working in the Lee District schools. So we actually have a team of people that work just for that. So, okay, so here's a picture of one of our volunteers, okay, working in a classroom and doing some reading with the kids, which is not usually what we do. We usually work with the children individually or, as I said, on small groups when the teachers have circle time, okay? This is more like what we do. We work one-on-one with a child. This is when we have those 850 books. So I'll tell you a quick story that, and these are the things that really keep us coming. So there were so many books that in the 5th grade section, there was a box underneath, and that was filled with 5th grade books, and the kids were there, and they were rummaging through the box. This is my favorite author. Did you read this one? Look at this one. And then there's this kid, you know, like this big, burly kid with a soccer uniform on, and I heard him say when he turned around, he said, "I've never been so excited about reading in my whole life." He said it under his breath, and I said, "Oh my God, it's just, you know, what?" He was listening to all of his classmates saying what authors were good, and he picked some of those books. Why we achieve. We create lasting and meaningful relationships between the generations and cultures. We allow people of a grand age to share their talents and resources in activities which benefit both the individual and culture. So we feel that we are leaving a legacy of good work, that we're destroying ageism, that we're improving our health and our general well-being, and we're making Fairfax County a livable community for all ages. So we received the government, we received the governor's award for community activities last year. Yeah, which was really nice. And okay, remember the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child, and we like to say that we're changing the world one child at a time. And so if you're interested in making a difference in your local schools, please see me. So tomorrow, Thursday, there's going to be an information session, and it's called the Match Game. And it's for people who don't really know what they want to do, but they want to volunteer in the community, and we will help them to understand what kind of volunteering they can do to give back. But at the end, we're going to put in a club program involved. So I have some flyers if you're interested in coming up and getting a flyer, you know somebody that might be interested. And I also have some flyers if you know of a good place to put up the information, like at your church or your local Panera or someplace like that. I have some flyers that we call them the wanted poster. So I'll give you a flyer to put up someplace. Okay, so now, do you think I'll be able to get this to work? Okay, let's see. Nope. Okay.
Oh, my time in clearly. Okay. I'm under appreciation. You never know. you that the technology portion is really very good.
I think that the volunteers should definitely an opportunity to have purpose in their life of being able to do for somebody, to help somebody. And for the students, I think it's an opportunity to have another adult that just pays attention to them.
So you held it up against the wall. You had your choice. What did you do? It was great. It went great. That's not great. So you choice. That's the playful one, and then you do a great one.
My second experience, it was beautiful because the kids in little places line up and either little sneaky place on the side or to tell their teacher that they need to be the one that's selected to go with you to read that day, or how much they wish to. One little thing that just comes to my heart, like I said, I was worried about you because I'm so old. It's like, wow.
I'm trying to choose one because you can meet and great people on the the symbols for the writing that they use in China. Did you know what it means? No, I don't.
Okay. After that, I have to have my phone come over and put this video. Here we go. Okay. So here's our information, but there's also information on your slide.
This has been
Well, Channel 4 is Park 1. Again, the same school that we saw here. We've been on TV News a couple of times, so it's really official. So Channel 4 is Park 1. We actually have a group of seniors that come to Park 1 from Goodland House, which is residential housing. And they come once a week. They're going to be there the same day that the Channel 4 is filming. So it should be interesting.
How are you set up in a school once you have the liaison?
Once we have the liaison, and so first of all, right now we're working in the leadership, okay? But we will go like any school, even if it's not in the school that we're working in. So once we volunteer, we sit down with the principal at the school for about 15 minutes to quickly explain what the principal needs to do. And then the principal needs to find a staff person. So we have a liaison, the school needs to have a liaison. So they are the two that work very closely together. So once the principal tells me they have their school liaison, then we come back to the school. We've got about an hour-long meeting, and I have a whole booklet of information that I give the principal, including the deliverables, like what we expect from them at the end of the year. And those are, we expect for them to tell us the names of the volunteers, the number of hours that the volunteers have worked, and the number of teachers that have been impacted. So there's, like I said, a whole set of information that we give to principals. Both of the liaisons are there. Both of them understand what their roles are, and then that's it. The new liaison, who's the volunteer liaison, then starts coming to our monthly meetings with the other liaisons. They use monthly, and they, like I said, they talk about it. They help each other.
Is there a training program?
That's about a month. About a month, yes.
Is there a training program for the volunteers?
Yes. So our volunteers have, many of our volunteers come to us through MentorWorks. So MentorWorks actually provides the training for the volunteers before they are as fingerprinted as part of the orientation. But some of our volunteers go directly to the school. Each school is expected to have a orientation. And one of the things that we provide to the school is a volunteer handbook. And the volunteer handbook that we've already designed and set up, they just have to plug in their school's name and, specific information with the map for their school. So they actually have an orientation at the school. Plus, each volunteer is interviewed by the staff person at the school to find out what they are interested in doing so that she or he can match them up to a teacher.
Does the grant involve liaisoning with your
No. No, we have some parents who are liaisons. We target newly retired people. So our grand people are newly retired. So that's what we're hoping to capture, that experience and knowledge that there's so many people in Fairfax County, that are retiring and have so much experience that we just want to capture that.
And for that liaison person have a monthly meeting.
Yes.
With the other liaisons, what's the time? Is that an hour-long meeting?
It's an hour-long meeting. Usually it lasts a little bit longer than an hour because they stand around and talk for like half an hour. But other than that, their time commitment at the school, generally they are one of the people who's volunteering at the school. So what we ask is that they stop in, and say to the liaison, the school liaison, and they drop in and say, hey, how's things going, And also when we have a new volunteer for that school, I send out both of our liaisons their information. So I expect they will be in touch with that volunteer. And many of our school liaisons also get the volunteers from the school together so that they get to know one another. And they also disseminate information about the nighttime activities and the afternoon activities that might be available. So it's up to them, how much extra time they put into it, but the things that are required of them is to follow the other volunteers and try to coordinate those volunteers at school. They can become Grand Involved. There are benefits to being a Grand Involved volunteer, and they can become a Grand Involved volunteer, but they don't need to be. But what we have found is most of the schools we go into have very few volunteers other than parents. Now, parents don't have to be fingerprinted and go through the background check. Ours do. So they don't have to become a Grand Involved volunteer. Most of the people who are already volunteering at the school are parents and a few grandparents. It's very unusual to find somebody who lives in the next town who's volunteering in the school. That's great. What school is it? Okay, not there yet.
Not one, but
Okay. That's great. And we also have, some schools have former teachers that have remained as volunteers, which is another great thing. Yes. We hope to have 10 at every school, but we don't start with 10. We start with the one volunteer who volunteers to do it. And like at Rose Hill that just started, we're starting with 3. So we have 3 volunteers starting at that. We hope that by next year there'll be 10 volunteers at the school. So that is our goal, is to get 10. But we don't start with that many. Oh yeah. Grand Involved does the advertising, marketing. Okay, yeah. So we're in lead district right now. So this program that we're going to have on Thursday has gone out to all the newspapers. It's been in the Golden Gazette, Supervising the Day, and County Colfax have both we're doing heavy duty marketing in that area. But that's random. Yeah.
Find out what they're doing
They're liaisons, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are several schools that are currently without a liaison. I'm serving as the liaison for the schools, okay? So it's just like 4 out of the 18. Most of our schools do have a liaison. So things happen, people move, and then you don't have to go in or so. Yeah.
I was curious if you guys thought about doing kind of a reverse thing where kids come for like the living communities and work with people over there. Because I know a lot of our kids from like our mosques pick up a lot of doors and do with them or knitting or other types of activities to entertain, like
it would be great. Yes, it would be. The liability issues come in where very strict guidelines that we're following. Our kind of volunteers must have a teacher or parent with us when we're volunteering. Mm-hmm. And that's for the safety of the children. Yeah.
Like math, right?
Yeah, I do see some ways. Unfortunately, we couldn't help with transportation, but if everybody else could solve the transportation issue, we have a lot of our volunteers that are volunteering during the day would be willing to come back in the afternoon. I would not be surprised if we would have afternoon volunteers that would be willing to help. That would not surprise me at all. I mean, volunteers are volunteers. The people who volunteer are the ones that are going to volunteer again. Okay. Thank you.
One of the reasons why I wanted you here tonight is each other, figure out how you can partner, but also because you all have a pulse when you have a good idea what the challenges are. So until what you've learned tonight, how do you plan to start a special in your school? Parents, teachers, how do you plan on starting out with session if you have one of those? 26 before. Only 69 months. Don't give up.
If you're on the line, do you mind muting your phone? We're hearing a lot of feedback. Thank you.
The last one.
No, I mean just for the meet.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
At night? No, I just need to say. I hope y'all figure it out. I don't even know the details.
Yeah.
We just think stay during the day. No, the sound, yeah.
In the box right here.
It's played us multiple times. It's trying to figure out. What's up? I know it is involved in talking about it. I can say it in like 5 words. Not just all words. About, I know part of it's going to be about the district, compact, and district compact.
They're going to look at it and review it.
Yeah.
And then I think the next one is to write a statement.
Review the report.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Well, that is it.
No.
Somebody action about the report. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
They need to come back together.
Okay, we're going to go around and just kind of hear some ideas that you all have about how to share this back with your school.
We can have one person for each table. Does nobody hear me? I can be louder. We got to wrap up, so we want everyone to go around and you share an idea or two that you have for how you're going to bring these ideas back to introduce them to your school community.
We just kind of were talking about after you do that, and then we go back and set up a meeting with the principal or whatever, brainstorm these ideas. But we already have Red Golf in
I'll go next. Paula from who's online with us said she'd like to speak with their local middle school and speak with the Ivy resource person who deals with volunteers and see how homework helpers can be a part of the school.
Okay, with that.
I was going to say that we're just lucky that we have some middle school like right across from us, so we could definitely coordinate with them, and hopefully transportation won't be that much of an issue.
Right.
So we definitely
Okay, with that.
Cool. We were just kind of brainstorming some ideas as far as reaching out and individual schools and then personally we were just going to head up things like that.
All right. So, a few announcements for next meeting. It's going to be April 9th, and it's going to be one floor up, basically the same room, just one floor higher, 3050, 3061. And the topic of that meeting is going to be the district policy and the school family compact. You're going to have a copy from each school, your school handed out, and what it is, I'm going to call it kind of a family engagement scorecard to try to see what things the school is doing, what the school has set out as the metrics or the goals it wishes to accomplish in terms of engagement. And having been through the school year, you just take some time to look through it and see whether it's accurate in terms of what the school's doing, whether it needs to be amended, whether some of things like that added to it if it's not accurate. It's just really, you saw at the beginning, part of what ESSA, I think is the acronym, sets out is to make sure that the level of family engagement from the schools is at a certain level, and we want to make sure that if it's not, how we can improve it. So that'll be the focus of that meeting. But before you leave, we have in those little zipper pouches, we have sticky notes, and I'd like you to think about thus far what you've heard this year at our meeting and themes that have resonated with you strongest. So anything you think should really be captured in the report, because the final meeting on the 14th is really going to be to review and give final comments. I think the presentation is the end of May. So we started off the year, the October meeting, it was really, we had a much larger crowd than we ever had before to start. So it was really introduction to what does this group mean, what are we, what do we do, how are we different from a PTA, how can you take what you've heard from here and how can you push that down to your school community, how can you maybe even teach your PTAs in terms of increasing family engagement. The December meeting was about advanced programming for all. Commonly think of AEP as the only advanced programming. It's not. The Student Leadership Academy, there's project-based learning that should take place in any school, any class, and get a representative from Thomas Jefferson even talking about the steps needed, to get into that school. In January, we had from the parent perspective, focus on the special ed process. I wasn't able to attend that, but I heard it was a very powerful meeting. And tonight, you've heard from 2 community resources in Homework Helpers and Grand Involved. So whether it's that, in terms of what we've heard so far, and looking forward to next year, if there's other themes or areas you think we should explore, we can write those down. Are we going to stick them on here, or just?
I'm going to ask you, once you have put them on a Post-it note, if you put them up here on the table by the sign, and we'll compile that information.
Did we have contact information for the homework?
It is in the PowerPoint, and it is my goal to have the minutes I set tomorrow, and I have them approved by close of business so that I can email all the PowerPoint. The homework helpers also have a video, so in the follow-up email that I received from the TPAC committee, in addition to the PowerPoint with all the slides, there'll also be the link to their website that includes a specific link to their video. I think it's powerful to be able to take the video back, excuse me, to be able to play that for your community when you're discussing it. So that information hopefully will all be emailed out, hopefully by noon on Friday.
And part of why they created that is because they've been to some schools, but, you know, there's only so many of them, and they can't clone themselves yet. They're really good at science. They could in a few years, but it allows us to make it scalable, so you can share it in every PTA meeting or whatever PTA website or whatever other method of communication. You can just amplify their reach. The video is not going to be there, but the contact information is in the presentation. The video will be in the follow-up that comes out.